Number 9 on Joshua Starnes' top 10 movies of 2012 is Cosmopolis, a Canadian film. There's two things about this film that set the film aside from the rest of the films on the list. One, it was a complete bomb, and two, it's a very bizarre film. Perhaps that's why it was a bomb. But Joshua, why is it on your list?
Well, every critic, when they do a top 10 list, they always have one or two movies that are not about, a lot of it's the same. You see the same list from list to list, but there's always going to be one or two that are going to appeal directly to their idiosyncrasies. And Cosmopolis is probably that for me. I usually have one of these weird ones on my list every year because I do like very bizarre movies. And this was a very bizarre movie, which is probably why it appealed to me so much. It has a very unique structure, a very unique way of going about it. It talks in a very elliptical way, and it just appealed to me in a great way. I've always been a great fan of Cronenberg, and I feel like this is his best work of the last couple of years, even though it is deliberately away from some of the really commercial stuff he's done, which has been good, but that he's done over the last couple of years, like History of Violence, and last year with Dangerous Method, and this feels much more Cronenberg to me.
It's funny that you call those movies commercial movies because they are, but they're not. But at the same time, they're not as bizarre as this film.
They are commercial for Cronenberg.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's not The Fly, but it's commercial, but it's still in that not as bizarre as this film. But at the same time, they have one of the hottest young actors playing the lead role. So you figured that just having him in this movie would give him up some box office at least, right?
Well, box office isn't everything, and in fact, in a lot of ways, it's nothing. Because you got to keep in mind who goes to see movies at the actual box office. There's a very small contingent of the population. A lot fewer people actually bother going to the movies nowadays than they used to even 20 years ago. Your opening weekend is almost entirely controlled by teenagers and 20-somethings. And then after that, you'll have a lot of parents looking to take their kids to family movies so they can go to something as a group. And that's about it. Older couples don't really go out to the movies. You're starting to see younger people not going to the movies in favor of watching YouTube and streaming videos. So, which is why we keep having all of these strange new inventions to justify increasing the box office price, like 3D and now high frame rate 3D. And while they're interesting each on their own, they're basically making up for the fact that fewer and fewer people go to actually the physical movies to see movies nowadays. It's a long-winded way of saying bad box office does not mean bad movie.
100%, but at the same time, you have to take notice when a movie that has a $20 million budget doesn't gross more than $1 million with the hottest young actor in the States in the lead at the same time. I understand exactly what you're saying, but it's still a story especially when this movie's on your top 10 list as well, right? So.
No, I mean, lots of years. Actually, almost every year I have a movie in my top 10 list that people totally don't hear about. Last year I had two of them. I had Sarah's Key and Submarine were both in my top 10 list. I don't think that many people saw it. Sometimes it's a good thing. Sometimes it just means it's going to be a discovered treasure later. Sometimes it means it just appeals to a particular person, and it's not going. This is by no question, and I can say that as someone who put it in my top 10 list. This is definitely not a movie for everyone.
I'm looking out my window right now, and I can see exactly where they filmed this movie, which is kind of interesting. And Cronenberg, who is the Canadian,
you live outside of a limo.
No, but they shot it on Yonge Street in Toronto. They basically shot the scenes in Yonge Street in Toronto, so they basically went up and down kind of the street in the middle of the night. And there is some outside locations as well, but okay, at the same time, $20 million budget. Where's the budget in this movie? If it's all, like you said, it's all shot in a limo.
That's a great looking limo though. And $20 million won't buy you as much as it used to, but
yeah.
It looks like a $20 million movie to me about that. It is a fantastic looking movie. It's probably, you may not notice just how great a looking a movie it is.
He's a great filmmaker. There's no question about it.
It's all inside a limo, and yet it's completely fascinating. It has a fantastic verbal structure, which is probably what appeals to me about it the most. The way everyone talks around what they're talking about. The Japanese have a great saying about art is the thing that you don't describe. It's what's left off the panel that you're not talking about, and that's what real art is. And there's a lot of that in Cosmopolis. In fact, at the heart of Cosmopolis is what's outside of the borders, what they're talking about a lot of movies, they want to force-feed you the plot so you stick with them. Cosmopolis doesn't do that, which is probably why it doesn't appeal to a lot of people.
Well, let's please the female teenagers. What did you think of Robert Pattinson's performance?
I'm split. Yeah, he's not. He wasn't. It should be said he was not the original choice for the lead. The original lead backed out. And
do you know who that was? I'm just curious.
I do, and right now his name is totally escaping me.
Okay.
I'm totally blanking. I'm gonna have to look it up later because it's killing me. But Pattinson was the second choice.
Colin Farrell was.
That's it.
Colin Farrell.
Colin Farrell was the original choice, and he backed out. I think he had another commitment to something else.
He was scheduled to do Total Recall, and I think they were making the movies at the same time in Toronto. So yeah.
Yeah. So there's your choice. Total Recall over Cosmopolis.
Yeah, that would be in the top 10 worst films of 2012.
But it looked nice, didn't it?
Okay.
Anyway, that's for the worst film.
Yeah.
Podcast. For this, I'm torn on Pattinson. He strikes me as kind of in a way similar to Keanu Reeves when he does a really good job like this, and he's actually very, very effective in this movie, which he has to carry. Unlike some of the other movies he's been in, that he's been the star of. There have been other things in it. In this, he's in every scene. He's talking the most in every scene. He really has to carry this movie with his performance, and he does. I can't quite decide if that's because he's seriously upped his game and he's giving a great performance, or if the role just sort of fits his personality and the way he acts in such a way that it makes a perfect merge. But however it came to be, he carries the movie. That is impressive in and of itself, especially such a difficult movie.
Yeah, and at the same time, he doesn't carry the Twilight movies because he's not really the main character. So this is kind of one of his first movies where he had to carry the entire film.
Yeah, and had to carry dramatically, and in it with a character that's not what you would call conventionally dramatic. He's very reserved. He keeps things to himself. The entire movie is very reserved. For a movie with a lot of drama in it, it's not melodramatic, which most of our quote-unquote drama movies always have a sense of melodrama to them in order to make sure everyone knows what is trying to be conveyed, and they don't do that too much in Cosmopolis, which is probably another reason why it doesn't always work for everyone. But he holds his own against a great cast, and he has a great supporting cast. Paul Giamatti does a fantastic performance in the last scene. I thought, her name's popping up.
Sarah Gate.
Yeah, she did a fantastic job. So actually his entire supporting cast, even people who you wouldn't normally associate with this sort of thing, like Jay Baruchel, who shows up for a scene, and you'll notice that's a trend. Everyone shows up for a scene, and then they leave, do a great job. And it is a serially weird movie, I won't deny.
Yeah, it's definitely, like, it's so weird that people walked out when I was watching the movie. I don't know if that happened with you.
No, but I saw with a bunch of film critics who can normally handle weird.
Okay. You're not allowed to walk out. Film critics are not allowed to walk out anyways, right?
You can and I know some people who've hated a movie so much that they have. It's like the ultimate pass by a critic, is if it's so bad that they walk out. I haven't done it yet. I came very close during the Love Guru, but other than that, I have not yet done it yet.
But you wanted to see if they were going to win or not. That's why you had to stay.
That's what it was. Yeah. I think by that point I'd actually stabbed my eyes out, so I would never see if they won or not.
Well, this is the Toronto filming theme, because that film was also filmed in Toronto as well.